I'm going to tell you something that just might blow your mind. Your neck was not created to carry your body weight. I know. Seems weird, but true. I'm Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California, here today to give you 3 essential alignments to keep your neck safe while you're doing a headstand. Now, today we're going to be working with Sirsasana A. This is the classical yoga headstand, the one where we take our hands basically in a triangle. Why? Well, first of all, let's think about why is this classic, wherein when you're a kid or you're in gymnastics, you actually learn to do a headstand in tripod, right? Which in yoga we call Sirsasana B. Now, the reason, as far as I'm concerned, is because to have a nice stable base like this with equally distributed weight helps to protect your neck. Now, when you're in a tripod, and I did a whole video sort of explaining Sirsasana A versus Sirsasana B and the benefits and the challenges. But when you're in a tripod, there's no way to take pressure off your head. It's one of the 3 points, and in most instances, it actually takes the most weight. So ironic, because B is considered more of the beginner version of headstand, but it can also be more dangerous on your neck. So that's why we're focusing on Sirsasana A today. Okay, so 3 things you absolutely must do to make sure that your neck is always safe. Number 1, head positioning. Most people, when they come into headstand, and they're sort of new to headstand, for reasons I can't explain, go very close to their forehead. Now, when I say most people, if you don't know, I have a secret double life working with children, and I could tell you that every human being from age 3 to age 90, all have this weird tendency to go to their forehead. What happens if you go on your forehead, I'm not going to actually go up because it's very bad on your neck. But look what happens when I'm very close to my forehead. If I were to go up, can you see how it crunches into the back of my neck? Okay. Now, what we want to have in order to minimize any strain on our necks in headstand is a nice long neck. So how would we do that? Well, we would go onto the flat part of our head, as I call it. Now, it's possible you don't have like a flat top of your head. Maybe I have a flat top of my head because I do so many headstands. Whatever it is, imagine your head were flat, and wherever the top middle part is, that's the part that goes on the floor, but it doesn't end there. I'm going to give you the tip to make this even more protective for your neck. So you could get into your headstand however you want to. I have tons of videos explaining every single entry you could imagine. I'm going to do some different entries today in order to just sort of show you from different angles. So once you come into your headstand, okay, so you'll notice that my neck is for the most part long. It's not crunchy like it was before. But here's the thing that nobody will tell you. Don't just go on the flat part of your head, but I want you to sort of press into the front part of the top of your head, okay? So what this does is it's going to help you, remember root and rebound? The more you press down, the more you go up. And what happens when I go up? Well, up relieves the pressure on the down. Okay, I'm coming down. So let's put this in just real terms. So once my head is on the floor, I'm pressing right here. Now that might seem a little bit contradictory. I just said don't go close to your forehead, and now I'm saying press into the top part, the front part of your head. Well, I'm not talking about my forehead or my hairline. Everything that's on the floor should be behind your hairline unless you're bald, and that will be impossible. So if this were the flat section of my head here, this is the section that I'm literally pushing down, okay? That extends my neck and extends my body, taking pressure off my neck. That's number one. Number two, how are you distributing your weight? Now, remember that when you're working with a triangle, I know everyone loves it when I get into my geometry, an equilateral triangle will be your most stable base. Equilateral meaning 3 sides that are equal. How do you measure that? Basically, if you were to take your forearms like this, and then connect the dots like this, that is an equilateral triangle. This is not only your most stable base, but it gives you the most opportunity to press down equally into your arm. Most people, just so you know, go too wide with their elbows. Can you understand that? Because arms are spread out in this scenario and your body is centered, that the wider your elbows are, the more your weight is going to come center. What center? Your head. So in order to release pressure on your head, you want to make sure, so once I come down, okay, so again, if you measure hand to elbow, that will create essentially an equilateral triangle, okay? Now, this isn't something I can necessarily show to you in headstand. It's not going to make any difference to you. But when you're here, I want you to make sure that your hand is pressing, your forearm is pressing, and your elbows are pressing. You want it to feel like your head could almost float off the floor, because in reality, it actually can float off the floor. You can easily transition from a headstand, for example, into Pincha Mayurasana by lifting your head off the floor. So this is the second thing you want to be focusing on. Once you have your equilateral triangle, press into elbow, forearm, and hands, as if you were trying to literally lift your head off the floor. Now, we're not lifting our head off the floor. In fact, I just told you in number one that we're pressing the head down, okay? So we're talking about an energetic movement rather than a physical movement. So I'm pressing to take more pressure off my head. I press into this part of my head. The rest of my head, which is closer to the neck, right, where all the danger holds, this part is holding less and less pressure, and my neck gets longer and safer. Okay, number three. Now, in number three, this actually has to do with my shoulders. Now, shoulders and neck are very intricately connected. That's why when you see people stressed out, they're up in their shoulders and tight in their necks, right? These two things go together. It's also why in yoga, there isn't, that I could think of, a single pose that doesn't involve taking your shoulders back and down. Back and down is how we relax our shoulders. It's how we relax our necks. And by the way, our necks are where we hold on to like the stress and tension that we carry day to day in the moment. Quiz. Do you know where we hold the stress from the past that we haven't let go of and that needs to let go? Answer. Hips. It has nothing to do with this video. It's just a little bit of trivia. So neck and shoulders are where we hold most of our stress and tension. So we want to make sure they're always back and down. Now, keep in mind when I'm upside down, back and down takes on a little bit of a different meaning, because down, when I'm upside down, is actually going to be up. I hope that's not confusing, but upside down is the opposite of right side up. So I'm going to do the headstand facing this way. Sorry that you're going to have to look at my butt, a little bit of gratuitous buttness here. But I want you to focus on my shoulders and watch what happens when I basically lift them up to relax and release the pressure on my neck. I gotta go pretty close to the wall on this one in order to stay on screen. So once I come up, okay, I take my shoulders and I lift them. Now, this is where most people are. Can you see how they're crunched? And this is lifted. Now, you might also be able to tell that when I lift, it's also a function of what I called number two, which is pressing into my forearms, my wrists, and my elbows. So you don't want to be crunching in your shoulders, among other things. It's actually going to sort of push you back down. But lift your shoulders up to release pressure on your neck. Again, these three things are super important. Your neck is super vulnerable. It is the smallest part of your spine, and as much as I love headstands, and I do love headstands, your neck was not created to sustain the weight of your body. So you want to master Sirsasana A to understand how you can shift these weights around. Sirsasana B is going to be an easier balance, but it's also going to be more on your neck. Something to keep in mind, particularly if you're a headstand beginner. I'm Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California. Remember, I reply to all questions and comments, so leave your questions and comments below. I always love to hear from you, and namaste.